Greetings, comrade, and welcome to a Final Fantasy Magic the Gathering Crackerback! Alright. So just to review, we open the pack, we review the cards, we talked about what we would pick. Pack 1, first one. The only event I've done for this is the pre-release. And I just want to make sure... Okay, there's the rare. Foil, uncommon. Yeah, you go like that to get it good. Alright, hopefully we don't know what everything is. And I've really only played up to 6. I've played a little bit of 7. So if I pronounce these things wrong, don't be mad. Okay. We have one black, 2 colorless. Shinra reinforcements. It's a human soldier. When it enters, mill 3 cards and you gain 3 life. It's 2/3 for 3. So for this set, there's the graveyard value set. I think this is like a C in that deck and probably a C- everywhere else. You can play it, it's fine, but nothing special. Alright, here we have the meme dream to suplex a motherfucking train. It's 1 red, 1 colorless. For a sorcery, if you choose one, deals 3 damage to target creature. If that creature would die this turn, exile instead. Or exile an artifact. Probably B-. I'd be very happy to have this removal. The exile really matters, and the fact it can also kill the equipment if there's job select, which is this set's variants of living weapon. You get an equipment attached with a hero. You probably want to actually hit the equipment in that and not the hero, and then you're happy to just kill the other creature. So B-, very likely this is what I'm choosing from the commons. But we'll see what other ones we have. Chocobo Kick is a green and colorless sorcery. You kick or return a land. Target creature control deals damage equal to power to another target creature an opponent controls. If the spell was kicked, the creature deals that much instead. I mean, hopefully you don't need to return a land with just a punch, though it's there. But I think the landfall is really for the return lands to really help with some of the landfalls that Chocobo have. This is, I'm going to guess it's C+. I'm going to guess it's worse on average than Suplex. Though if you want to be green, you might take the Silver Suplex. I really don't have a strong color preference right now, so I'll just do that. Alright, retrieve the Esper. Biggs and Wedge. 1 blue, 3 colors for sorcery. Create a 3/3 Robot Warrior artifact creature token. Then if the spell is cast from a graveyard, put 2 +1/+1 counters on that token. A flashback for 5. Both of those are below rate. But I think this format, you're allowed to do some below rate things. From what I've seen, they made... I call it... Everyone says it's the Commander format. It's true, but like this is the Commander format in like... Well, I don't think every format's the Commander format, but this truly has some like... designs you can aspire to. I really like the blue-red spells with 4 or more matter, and this is a card great in that deck because it makes 2 bodies with 2 spells that cost 4 or more. In every other deck, I'm sure it's fine and playable, but it's a bit less. So probably C- in most decks, but probably C+ in the red-blue spells deck if you're ever going to do a thing with that. But I'm not first. Don't want to first pick that. All right. Cloudborn Moogle is 2 white, 3 colors for 2/3 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, and it has plane cycling. I found these good in sealed. These plane cyclers were good in, or the basic land cyclers, any of them were good in sealed. They tend to do a bit better in sealed than draft. They've been really not great in draft. They've been very subpar recently in draft. I think these might be fine, but like don't want to start off picking this. Like it's really understated. Putting the +1/+1 counter on another creature's fine. I don't think white has a particular strong +1/+1 counter theme in this set, so this is probably a D+. Not embarrassed to play it, but certainly don't need to. Alright, world map is 1 colorless and 1 you can tap and sack this artifact. Search library for a base land card, reveal it, put it to your hand, then shuffle. Or 3, you can search for any land card, reveal it, put it to your hand, and shuffle. Cards like this tend to be fine, if not great. Give me a second. There we go. There we go. Little perfectionist there. This is very mediocre mana fixing. If you have like good land, like there are some lands that have spells, even then I haven't seen those spells be particularly great. I think there's one main land, so it goes up a little in value there, so it's probably like a D to begin with. This is never ideal mana fixing, but it's also never terrible mana fixing. Probably a D, and then if you have like an actual land to find that can do something, maybe D plus C minus. Yeah, I think this is mainly a 2-color format. I certainly hope there's like a 5-color Blitzball Legends deck going on, but I want specifically because Blitzball lets you draw cards with Legends. Yeah, so like D, probably should not put this in your deck. And then if you have a land that you actually want to find, it goes up a little. Alright, Iron Giant, 7 mana, artifact creature demon, 6/6, Vig, Reach, Trample, D-. You don't want this in your deck. Though I think this is a synergy format, like you want cards that get value off each other, and this doesn't do that. This in no way protects itself. All the keywords are nice and everything, but I'm hoping you can do better things with 7 mana in the set than this guy. D-. Alright, Choco Comet, thinking of things that are way better to do with your mana. It's 2 red and X. It deals X damage to any target, and you create a 2/2 green bird creature token with whenever land you control enters. This creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Chocobo tokens. This is probably like a B. Like you can just play it as 2 red and make a 2/2, but most likely you want to just save for like X is 5. This sounds way better. X is 5. Kill their biggest creature and make yourself an own creature. Like I think this is just taking over these other two quite handily. There are some formats where like the 2 red and X wouldn't do well, but I don't think this format is lightning fast, except for maybe against the Boros equipment deck might be kind of fast. And then this has the cash out. It'll just make a 2/2 for 2 red. Not what you want to be doing with it, but it's fine. Probably B. Like, I really like that card. Alright. Queen Quan Gourmet. Green 2 colors for a 2/3. One or more tokens would be created under your control. Those tokens plus a 1/1 green frog is created instead. And you can sacrifice a frog, put a +1/+1 counter on this. The heroes create tokens, the Chugabos create tokens. This does seem really slow for all that. The sacrificing the 1/1s don't seem particularly great, but it's fine. It's probably a C. But like, that's not the type of card I would go hard building around. But, you know, if it's the middle of the pack and I'm already making tokens, sure, I'll play you. Alright, Stolen Uniform. A 1 blue instant, choose target creature you control and target equipment. Gain control of that equipment until end of turn. Attach it to the creature. When you lose control of the equipment this turn, it attaches to it. If it's attached to a creature you control, unattach it. And that's just because you can't have your opponent's equipment on your creature. So, like I saw at the pre-release, somebody stole somebody's fighter sword on their creature, killed the opponent's creature, and then you give them back the fighter sword. It's no longer attached to your creature. This is probably like a sideboard C+. I wouldn't want, even though there are lots of equipment that come attached with creatures, playing a card to unattach it probably isn't worth it. Like, you really want the scenario that I saw at the pre-release where your opponent killed the creature, and that's not always going to happen with this. Sometimes there's not going to be targets, so it's like a sideboard C. It is a little tight, but the price is right. Price is not right here. Alright, Fang Fearless Ilse. So this is part of the meld cycle. I'm not going to add any value to the fact it melds to something ginormous on the back. But certainly it's not a bad thing. Like, I'm happy to have that. And I believe the other side can return a permanent card from the graveyard, so the other side can return this side, which is something they do for melt because it's actually very hard to melt. So this is black 2 colors for 2/3. Whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, you draw a card and you lose a life. This ability triggers only once each turn. I really wish it did have partner with the other card. That would make this card actually super playable. I don't see there's not like a lot of recurring ways to remove cards from the graveyard, so this card's like a D. If I'm missing something, there's a ton of ways to remove cards from a graveyard. This would go up to like a C+, because you really want to draw at least one card off of this. Okay. What do we have here? Garrett, Princess of Alexandria. Green and white for a 2/2 lifelink, and when it attacks, you may remove a lore counter from each of any number of sagas you control. Put a +1/+1 counter for each lore counter removed this way. So I sadly did not see any of the summoned creatures here. I'm still not sure what to think of them. I would start them at vehicles and only want a few in my deck. This would be fantastic in a summons deck. I'm not sure if you can remove the first counter or not due to rules. I'm sure they changed the rules so you could, or that wouldn't make any sense. This is like going to be a build around like B. Like in the right deck, this is going to be absolutely fantastic. You do need to be removing lore counters to have this be good, though. I wouldn't start. I'm not starting by like, I'm going to take this and build around this. No, but that might be right. We'll see. I'll start it with a build around B. A normal deck C+. You know, if you're in those colors, a 2/2 lifelink's absolutely fine. Sometimes you get a bit of value, but a build around B. There we go. All right. Bob. We got a card called Bob. This isn't Bob. This doesn't have the art. This is Dark Confident. 1 black, 1 colors for a 2/1 human wizard. At the beginning of your draw, reveal the top card of your library and put that card in your hand. You lose life equal to its mana value. So my personal Bob feelings is I've played Bob with Tombstalker. That's like an 8 mana card and have just eaten a Tombstalker to the face. In Limited, you will happily play this guy and you will try to trade him off after a turn or two. You just want to draw like 2 or 3 cards and then trade him off. I don't think there's a ton of library manipulation. If there is, he gets better because you can just put like lands or low cost spells on top and just keep drawing. But he's very good early game. And then depending on how it shakes out, he can be good to bad late game. Probably a C. Like, if I'm playing with him, I really want to play him early and actively trade him off or sacrifice him for some value or something like that. So probably a C. I know it's a mythic, iconic card, but constructed cards don't always port over to Limited well. Alright. So of the 3, I'm just taking Choco Comet. Super flexible. Not a particularly efficient kill spell, but it makes up for the fact it can just target your opponent's face also. Very much makes up for that. Alright, friends, this is Andre Aguides Desjardins signing off.